The country that we decided to do our healthcare system on was Panama. I'm Emma King.
And I'm Nathan Mayer. And this is our presentation on the healthcare in Panama, both currently and in relation to the country's history. Before we begin, this is the nation of Panama. It is directly connected to both the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, and obviously it's the location of the Panama Canal, which is one of the most important trade routes in the world.
My name is Billy Davenport. I am your grandfather. Okay. I was in Panama from August of 1972 until February of 1974. At that time, the Panama Canal was owned by the United States, and we were tasked with guarding the canal against guerrillas mainly.
So they are mostly a public insurance country. They have the CSS, which is the Social Security Fund, and it covers between 3.5 to 4 million of Panama citizens. They have primary insurance coverage for the nation, and it also functions as a pension fund, and it operates around 80 of the healthcare facilities. There's also Mensa, which is a Ministry of Health, and it provides low-cost health care to those who are unemployed or can't afford it and cannot afford their own public insurance through the CSS. It is also charged with overseeing the entire nation's health system, and this one operates about 830, which is a much higher degree of the health care facilities in Panama.
The private sector, there is very little private health insurance and private health care in Panama. There are about 4 major private hospitals, all 4 of which are really located in Panama City, but about 80% of the private spending on private health care was out of pocket. Private health insurance in Panama is almost non-existent.
So they have both inpatient and hospital care and primary care that they offer there. Inpatient and hospital, most of their facilities, which you'll come to see in the presentation, most things are localized to Panama City because it is the urban area there. They have some shortages in major cities due to the growing population, and there are just unfortunately severe shortages in the rural areas in both inpatient, hospital, and primary care. Primary care itself is less emphasized in Panama and is also restricted by the lack of healthcare professionals and facilities.
So many of the healthcare problems that Panama faces today stem from the country's history. So the country was originally founded in 1903 by a group of separatists who fought to create this new nation, and these separatists were backed by the United States because the United States wanted the rights to build and then own and control the Panama Canal. Ultimately, the United States got what they wanted. The Hay-Bunau-Varilla Treaty was signed, which gave the United States basically full rights to build, own, operate, and control the canal. After more than 60 years of that, during which the country fell into a sort of US-backed oligarchical rule where a select few controlled most of the wealth, a failed 1968 election led to a military coup that eventually left the hands of the nation in the hands of dictator Omar Torrijos, who is the man pictured on the right. Military dictatorships would continue in the nation for the next 30 years before eventually culminating in a U.S. invasion of Panama in 1989, which killed hundreds of military personnel and potentially thousands of civilians. The first free and fair election of the country in over 30 years happened in December of 1999.
So because of this, there is still a rural and urban divide in Panama, and there is a massive gap in care availability and care quality in these areas.
As you would drive along that, you would see cinder block buildings, and these were homes. Basically, someone took and cinder blocks and built a frame, okay, like a room, though it may have had more. I didn't get a chance to see inside, but It was basically just cinder block walls and a corrugated tin roof, and there were windows in the walls and doors, but there were no windows in the window spaces. There were just blank, empty spaces, and or there would be like cloth hanging. It was an extremely poor. I mean, the poverty was very bad.
Some of the areas in these rural areas have as few as 0.2 hospital beds per 1,000 people and 1.2 doctors per 10,000 people, despite the nation as a whole averaging around 16 doctors per 10,000 people. And then emergency healthcare is also almost exclusive to Panama City and to a lesser degree in a few other major cities, just because of the lack that these rural areas have.
There is also a ongoing severe shortage of both healthcare providers and healthcare infrastructure. Even in urban built-up areas like Panama City, they often suffer from a lack of hospital beds, a lack of providers, and generally a lack of infrastructure to meet the healthcare demands of the population. Now, many of these urban areas, including Panama City, have seen a rapid rise in population recently, which has continued to strain the existing healthcare facilities. This has led both the CSS and Mensa to try and expand the healthcare facilities and the healthcare infrastructure that they have, but it's a very slow process, and they continue to struggle with staffing due to a lack of providers within the nation as a result of many providers and many people capable of teaching new providers having left the nation during its period of military dictatorships because they had the resources to escape to a more stable area.